Okay, so Google just dropped Gemini Omni. Think Nano-banana style editing, but for video. And this model is really good at it. Now, this is different from something like Veo, which is a great video generation model. Google is calling this Omni, anything in, anything out model, starting with video. So this model gives you a granular control on what type of editing you want in your video. You can generate videos from scratch, edit this with simple text prompt, or input images. And it's a lot of fun. I've been playing around with this model in early access for the last few days, and I can show you some pretty interesting examples. Now, in this video, my goal is to show you different capabilities, what is possible with this new model, and where Google is taking this Omni future. So let's get started. Okay, so let me show you how this looks like in practice. So in order to test the new Gemini Omni model, you need to go to the Gemini app. In here, if you select video, now there are a number of different templates, but the most important thing is that it's being created with the Omni model now. So this is not the general Veo model. And you can select a template and just provide a text prompt, or you can provide videos that you want to edit, or you can provide images plus text, which are going to drive the video generation. So as an example, right now there is a live stream going on of the figure robot. So I thought, what if I provide one of the screenshot from that video with a prompt like a video of a robot sorting packages on a belt. Here is what it generated. Which is kind of awesome, right? So it deduced what exactly is happening in the image, and then it recreated it, which is pretty nice. Now, one of the most powerful part of the Gemini Omni model is character consistency. So in this video, if you notice, even though if the scene changes, it is still focusing on that robot named Rose, right? But this goes beyond objects. It can also apply to people. Okay, so here's one example of a video that I created. I'll show you how to create longer videos with more consistent characters. At the moment, the video generation is limited at 10 seconds only, which is 2 seconds more than Veo video generation. So let's have a look at this. Okay, if you see throughout the video, the character remains pretty consistent. Now, the way I did this was providing reference images. So you can start with a single reference image, or in this case, I have provided character sheets of 4 different images. So I use the same person in every character sheet, and every character sheet describes different scene composition or different personality for the same character, right? And all I did was I said, based on the provided character sheets, create a fast moving video of Sienna Rowe, showing her in different roles. The theme is that she can do everything. Now, this idea was mainly inspired by this new trend where people are providing these reference character sheets plus text prompt, and people have been getting some really good results with something like C Dance too, right? So the character sheets that I used were generated by Jared Lew. He's a great follow, and I'll highly recommend to check out his work. Now, with this, we can do a direct comparison between C Dance and Gemini Omni. But the main selling point of Gemini Omni is that you can do targeted edits in your videos. So let's say we take the same video, and I'm going to say, change the main character to an anime character. Keep the background natural and real. Do not touch the background. Okay, so we're going to send this. So I'm going to show you what that output looks like, but I previously generated another version of this anime character based on the original video, and here is how it looks like. Okay, so you can actually see there is one small problem with this. In this scene, Gemini Omni decided to put her in the wrong clothing. It's in the original video, it's a gamer scene where she's wearing a t-shirt. So here's the actual scene, but apart from that, it's pretty incredible because it follows almost everything. Even the little details like the characters or the game on the screen is exactly the same. Okay, so here's the second version that it generated. Even for the end screen, if you see, it keeps all the rest of the composition exactly like the original video. So here's that scene. Now this is in preview, so these small glitches I think are going to be fixed over time, but so far the results are pretty incredible. Now since this is built on top of the Gemini model, it has world knowledge. So what we can do is we can ask something like this: recreate what exactly was happening on December 17, 1903 at 10:35 a.m. at these coordinates. So this is the location of the first flight of modern airplane by Wright brothers. Now in this case, let's add a template as well. So we're going to say outdoor and let's see what it creates. Okay, so here's the video that it generated.
Keep it going, Orville! I've got it, Wilbur!
All right, so pretty neat, right? Like it knows what exactly was happening at that. It's a historic event which it's able to capture. Now, I think if we provide a lot more direction with a lot more detailed prompt on how to compose the scene itself, we're going to get much better results. But this is still pretty incredible that just using the word knowledge, it can recreate these historic events. Now, it also has some other really neat capabilities. It's a very strong Omni model, and it can render text very naturally. So here I asked it, a professor writes on a mathematical proof for trigonometric identities on a traditional chalkboard, explaining the steps he's currently on in the equation.
Now we subtract sine squared theta from both sides, which gives us the fundamental identity.
Okay, so a couple of things. I think there was that squared appear right here out of nowhere, right? But other than that, it's actually really coherent, and it kind of keep tracks of where exactly this professor is writing, which is pretty incredible. Now here's another version. This was one of their prompts, so I asked it to show 20 versions of the word Gemini, each one in a different style, a different scene, rapid fire, no dialogue. So here's the output. Now, since Google is releasing Gemini 3.5 Flash, so I asked it to recreate the same thing for 3.5 Flash as well. And here's how it looks like. So there were a couple of places where it missed the 3.5, but still, it's really solid results. Okay, this was actually another fun one. So I said a YouTuber is explaining list comprehensions in Python. There is a visible IDE and the Python code is being executed. Show the output with zoom in effect.
Today we are looking at list comprehensions in Python. They are a concise way to create lists. Let's run this code and check the output. And there it is.
Okay, so there are quite a few notable things. First of all, the list comprehension expression that it created is accurate. When it executes it, the results are also accurate, right? Which is kind of incredible, again, that it understands what exactly we want it to do. And also it zooms in properly, exactly based on the instructions. However, there are some notable artifacts. So for example, if you look at the path of the file execution, it's really weird. Similarly, if you look here, I think it tried to define a variable and then it's add comments that also looked pretty weird, right? But overall, the rendering of the IDE is what VS Code is supposed to look like, right? So there are some weird artifacts that I think added a couple of tabs, right? But still, it's pretty awesome at what it can do. However, as expected, there are guardrails, so it's not going to generate violence scenes for you. So as an example, I took this prompt, and here's the video generated by cdance2 for this prompt. Okay, which is pretty amazing, right? However, when I try to do that, I can't generate that video. Try describing another idea. You can also get tips for how to write prompts and review our video policy guidelines, right? So you need to be aware of that if you're working with Gemini Omni. Okay, so here's one more example of a use case. So in this case, I provided an image and then description of the different scenes. Now this is based on this prompt on X. I'm going to link to all of these prompts, and I wanted to show you a direct comparison between this and something that is generated by cdance. So let's have a look. Okay, so that was the cdance version, and if you look at towards the end, you see that the text is not rendered properly. It doesn't kind of make sense, especially the small one. Now for the same prompt, here's the output from Gemini Omni.
I always thought quinoa was just a simple grain, but it can be the star of your kitchen. Discover the magic of premium quinoa.
Okay, so it also has trouble with the text rendering in this specific case, and it decided to add audio, which is a nice touch. Now, this is where I think the guardrails comes into play as well. So I wanted to replace that person with Scarlett Johansson, and it says I can't generate that video. Try describing another idea. You can also get tips for how to write prompts and review our video policy guidelines, right? So this is good because there are guardrails on what exactly you can generate. Okay, so let me show you a couple of other fun examples. Now, I wanted to see whether it will be able to preserve the audio when it's doing video edits. So I uploaded one of my own videos. Google is calling this Omni, anything in, anything out model, starting with video. Okay, so this was a 6-second segment, and all I did was I said, change the person into anime of 5 different styles, rapid fire. And here's what it generated. Google is calling this Omni, anything in, anything out model, starting with video. Okay, so a couple of observations. First, in the beginning of the video, it definitely keeps my voice and sound. However, I have noticed that towards the end and the middle, it sometimes struggles. And especially, you can see that around here, anything out model, starting with video. So it repeated the same sentence or the same words a couple of times, right? So you could observe this little drift in certain situations. Other than that, it's a pretty awesome output. Okay, so for this next test, I wanted to see for how long we can keep editing the same video and see if there are going to be any artifacts introduced during the video editing process. Now, I took this simple scene. The scene doesn't change much, but I wanted to see if this is going to introduce any artifacts. So here is the actual video that was generated. All right, so we went through a few iterations where I asked it to basically retouch it, introduce different objects, right? And here is kind of after 5 different variations or 5 different changes. Now, this is pretty incredible because I think it still is able to preserve the overall scene. However, if you have way too many dynamic elements in your video, then I would recommend to take this to a new conversation and start over there. So for example, we're going to go back to this example. In here, there were way too many scene changes. So in the last one, this is basically the third iteration. And in this one, I just said, replace the person with hand-drawn silhouette. And here is what the output looks like. Okay, so a few things that you're going to see that it started drifting. So the chef uniform is now also when she's supposed to be a farmer. And then if you see, the gamer style is kind of transformed into when she's picking up these vegetables, right? So you actually start noticing these drifts in the videos if there are too many dynamic elements and you keep making changes to the video. All right, for this next one, I wanted to see whether it will be able to generate more of a cinematic movie scene. And I think it does a pretty good job at it. So here's one output.
Rick!
So not bad at all, right? And this is coming out of a single shot prompt. So if you experiment with the prompts, you'll probably get a lot more cinematic results. Okay, I do want to point interesting failure cases. So this is supposed to be a cinematic survival thriller shot. There are a group of people who are in a jungle and they encounter a big anaconda. All right, so there's a description of the different scenes that it's supposed to generate. Now have a look at this.
Get back from the water!
Run! Don't look back!
Okay, so a few things. First, the realism is pretty amazing. Second, you see some really interesting artifacts in the videos that it generates sometimes. If there are way too many visual elements and moving really fast, right? So in here, you see the Python now has two heads for some reason. And in the last scene, the Python is basically first flying towards the people and then for some reason it's flying away, right? Now we could definitely improve these with better prompting. Now I asked it to replace the Python with a dragon. Here's what it did.
Get back from the water!
Run! Don't look back!
Again, I think it does a pretty decent job. Now here, for some reason, it just comes through or goes through the tree without breaking the tree, right? But these are the type of stuff that I think we're going to be addressed in the next iteration, and you probably want to work on your prompts. Anyways, overall, I think it's a very impressive release. It's not the video generation capability, but the targeting edits that you can make to the videos. And it's an Omni model, so I suspect that they are going to be releasing an updated version that is going to be able to process audio, maybe create videos based on the audio. At the moment, if you try to upload an audio file, it doesn't process it. And also it might be able to generate different modalities, not just only video as an output. It's a very interesting space to see. I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.